You don't hamburger.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm going to ask everybody before we really begin tonight to take a piece of paper, and I'll give you a piece of scrap if you need it. But write down a question and then pass them forward. Okay? Whatever you would like me to answer later on. If anybody needs paper, I'll give it to you. And you can fold it up so no one can see. But let's. You guys, anyone need paper over there?
Yeah, we do.
And you need a pen? Let's see if I can manifest that.
I don't have one.
Do you have a pen from that? Is that mine? Okay. Can I throw?
I have an extra pen too. I have.
I think we're good. Anthony, do you have one?
No, I'll get one from the other guys.
Okay. You guys are going to share over there? Good. Excellent. All right. We have, this is probably the first time that this has ever happened, that we have a lot more people online now than in person. It's interesting because we've been doing this experiment where we're simultaneously putting it out there and broadcasting, and then also having it in person, just to be able to have people that are not within the local area be able to participate too. And we do get a good number of people who come on live as well. What I had not anticipated is that some of the people who are regularly here would choose to be online live. Of the way a lot of things are going, I heard where I actually like to hug people and touch and see your faces and your eyes and say the way that this does expand us. One day maybe we'll end up having this in my okay, but I appreciate you for coming out and getting in the car and driving and being here with us. Welcome to June, the 6th month of the year. We're halfway through almost 2019, but this is the halfway mark for the making discoveries and the building blocks that the guides have been giving us. I asked you to write down questions, so at some point just pass those up and I'll go through all the questions. You can have them anonymous, or you can, shout up and down, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine, if I call it out, whatever you prefer. I just wanted to make sure that I had those available to me to remember, because I do tend to, okay, we can go through a very, very quick review of what this year's building blocks have been. Each of the guides are giving us basically a building block of the path of enlightenment, so that we can have you, or a reminder, or a little tweak. Hi. Hug. All right, I'll get you on the way out. Good. I'll get you in the middle too. So each month they're giving us, whether for us it's a reminder, a review, a new insight, on whatever it is. But a lot of these topics are things that we're just putting them together in a body of 12 easy to refer back to building blocks of enlightenment. It doesn't mean that it's all the aha moments that we'll have in all of our lifetimes put together to reach the sense of being a soul again and not having the experience in earth life. They are fundamental. They're tools that will help us to be prepared for the changing energy that is rapidly coming our way, already in the midst of it, but it will be coming in even with more emphasis come January of 2020. Even when I'm doing sessions, oh, look at this, it glows in the dark.
Karen just saw something shiny.
That is so cool.
What is it?
Something was glowing in the dark. That was neat. Look at it. That.
What is it? It's in there?
Yeah. It's all right. We'll hide it. Okay. Otherwise it'll be too distracting for me. All right, where was I? Oh, okay. So 2020. Okay. So sometimes if I'm doing a session or I'm writing an essay with guides or I'm going for a run and I'm communicating with them for my sake instead of for someone else's sake, I get more tidbits about what the vibrational energy is that's coming forth. And it's not 12:01 a.m. The energy has been coming in for a long time. Some aspects have almost definitive, like the 1960s or the 90s or 9/11, 2012, There's some defining moments where you can see that energy is even rising more rapidly. But for the most part, when we talk about 2020, it's an energy that has been coming in for some time now, and it will continue to expand. But having a definable moment when we can say this is an expansion that we will be experiencing, and there will be effects of that energy coming in. So these blocks are preparing us for the effects of 2020 coming in more wholly. And we want to be prepared because as I was mentioning, that the hints that I get for this energy, it's some of it is not things we've seen already. It's not just simply an exacerbation of the energies that we've been witnessing for the last 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years. Some things are kind of new, and some of them are no influx of the change, if it's going to be slow progression from 2020 through 2035, or if it's going to be we're whipping through it in a few months of the year or in the first year that I hear and experience. We do want to be prepared, and it's not that hard to be prepared. There's just a couple of basic things that will help you to be prepared, and that is to have the intention to live awake. That's it, more than any other factor, any other building block. If you have the intention to live awake, we can't judge ourselves, we can't judge others about where we are within the state of awareness of enlightenment. There's no way to do that, nor would we want to do that. We're competitive enough on this planet with each other. We're competitive enough in using judgment and hierarchies of where people stand with different skill sets or anything that is an expression of their world. We don't have to start judging where we are within the spiritual journey. So that's not the point. But anywhere being on that spectrum of discovery, of understanding that this is purposeful in us being here, not just finding meaning in life, but finding the purpose of life altogether. Like, what are we doing so that we can put that information and that data more into our human experience? That's what this is about. So in the first 5 months, we have looked at the building blocks that the guides have given us. So I'm going to run through them very, very quickly because we are on month 6 already. Month 1 was change is possible, but beyond, we know that change is possible. This is that change is possible for you, regardless of all of your experiences, any of your experiences, your body of history, what you suppose, what you project, what you have experienced. Change is possible for you, number 1. Number 2, February. February coincided with the year before us, where we talked about what the word of the year was. And the word is, it's soft. Okay. I think it's an interesting word because some people have a lot of criticism out there in the world of us getting too soft. Soft doesn't mean weak. Soft means that you are coming from a vibration of love and that you have compassion and or empathy and or sympathy, but you have an idea that we are all connected. So you don't want to perceive life as the bigger piece of the pie you get, less I get. You want to see that the pie grows from the outside out and it expands. And softness means the more warmth and love that I experience, the more there is of any quality of anything on earth, the more there is for everybody. So it's a softer approach, and it's stopping the grueling fight. We're always fighting. We're fighting something. We're fighting, with customer service. We're fighting for a refund. We're fighting that our mommy doesn't love us enough. We're fighting that that our dog is ripping up the sofa. There's a fight all the time, and we always think we have to do battle in order to be more satisfied or secure. And softer also means to let go of the fight. When you fight things, when you always think that there's a battle at hand and there's another battle and another battle and another battle, you're bringing into your life, you're bringing in resistance. Resistance is the thing that prevents you from having the happy things that you would like in your life. So the idea is to let go of the fight. There really is nothing to fight. Can we have desires and dreams and hopes, and can we put our energy toward improvement for ourselves and for others and for the world and for the community and for this and that and the other thing? Sure. We don't have to fight. If you think about it, we can't stop anything by fighting it. We just can't stop anything by fighting it. If you say, fight crime, you're adding an aggressive energy into an aggressive situation. Stop war, the stopping part of it. What about bring peace? That's soft and it's inviting. You can't fight to get a less aggressive result than that which it is you're fighting. Okay. Number 3, March. March, I think, is interesting because of how I began by saying there are so many people watching online now. And that was part of my idea, was that more people would have access to our meetings. However, we don't want to give up the warmth of human experience, touch, and interaction. We want to maybe find subtle ways that we can turn back the tides, which the tides are basically putting us all in our still little bubbles because of litigiousness. I'm going to tell you that no matter how much we are legislated about how, when, and where we can touch people, innately, we know whether it's wrong or right. That's the bottom line. To have all of this legislated to the point that a teacher can't put their hand on the shoulder of a child who's crying in her classroom or his classroom, we're not going in the direction of connectedness. We're going into the direction of isolation. We're heading into a direction where one of the most important purposes of being here, which is to experience all levels of intimacy, where we are disconnecting from that because we're always so afraid. Not to mention names, but an example of a company that would contribute to this, or a product that would contribute to this, is Purell. As soon as I saw the first thing of Purell up, I'm like, that's it. Let's just go all lock ourselves in our houses right now because we're afraid of each other. We're just plain all afraid. But it's not that kill us. It's not germs that make us sick. It's fear that makes us sick. It's fear that kills us. So do you think the big symbol of the Purell, every single thing, is going to save your life? No, you're going to save your life by changing what you think and feel and believe, and the subsequent actions that you take based on what you think and feel and believe. And I can guarantee you that a hug is going to cure a lot more on this earth than a big jug of Purell will. Okay? Yes. All right, I said it. All right, April. Oh, apparently I already fought into March, because here we go. The basis of every disharmony in existence: relationship disharmony, disharmony with abundance, prosperity, career, people, your body, any kind of disharmony on this planet. All disharmony is created because of fear. I'm not going to ever get buried, but if I were to be buried one day and I get that whole tombstone thing, it would basically say on it fear. Because if you were to think of one single word that I would love to be my, what do you call it? What? TH? Epitaph?
EPITATH.
All right, that word. Well said. Well said. If I have one of those things, then that would probably be what it would be, is that I would love to have the influence, positive influence that I could leave here on this planet, is to help people fear less by giving them tools and strategies and incentive to give back the fears that we have accumulated. And at a bare minimum in this moment, to stop passing fear on and to stop encouraging others to experience and feel, grow more fear. Okay? So that brings us up to May?
Yeah.
Is that where we are?
No, we're in
No.
Georgia.
Oh.
It is a trick question.
Okay. Does anyone know what May's was? I don't remember.
It's at about, see it in the original.
That was last month? Oh, okay.
Get fast.
I tell you, I need adult supervision at all times. This is why I don't give seminars from my desk. Because if I give seminars from my desk, I have no adult supervisors. And that's not good for me, and that's not good for you. Okay, then. I'm maybe being a little too much of myself tonight. Let me be more of what I'm supposed to be. Okay. Huh? Okay. I'm back. Oh God, really not. Okay. I'm back. It's huh? Okay, so we are eternal. Okay. May is to me it's the foundation of all foundations of all foundations. If you are going to live the human experience without any acknowledgement whatsoever of there being a unity with higher consciousness, with us being within a finite experience within the eternal expansiveness. If you don't have some measure of understanding that or hoping for it or trusting it or having faith in it, I'm going to tell you that this is going to hamper your happiness. There's a lot of things that dial down our potentiality of happiness on this planet, but the biggest one to really dial down the potentiality for our happiness or to cap it is believing that we are finite and that the human experience is the be-all end-all, that we are disconnected and that when we die and this is over. I really can't think of, I mean, if you can get to a maximum of 100 in your happiness factor on earth, you're starting with a 50 possibility if you don't come to some sort of an understanding that we are eternal and that there is an interconnectedness with eternal consciousness, all that is, our higher selves, a purpose in being here in this one span. I would say that that would be the most important. And one of the things I would love to see, since the guys out there are legislating the hell out of us, I would like to legislate them. And how I would like to legislate them in return is that in order to be elected, you have to prove that you understand the eternal nature of our existence. Because then you'll be responsible for what happens in 100, not just what happens at the next, in 100 years, not just what happens at the next election. How cool would that be? I am going to legislate that. No, I'm not, but I would like to. Wouldn't that be fun? Maybe if we could just do, what do you do when you're trying to get someone elected and you raise money? What's that thing? Campaign. Even if we just legislate campaign reform, we're halfway there to people understanding that we are eternal, right? It's a start. That's a start. Okay. Any questions about the first 5 months of the year? That includes May. That includes May. Apparently I did too.
But you can get the video.
Apparently I didn't watch the video afterward though. Okay, so that brings us to the month of June. Again, the halfway point. What the month of June is bringing us is it actually seems to be a building block, exactly that, building, because it does build on the first 5 months to a large degree. And I think I can see the order now that I'm getting what June's is. I could see that the order actually is building. Yeah, you can shift the blocks around and do one and not the other and all that. But with today's, I could see that there's some intelligence behind this. Our guides are intelligent. That's good to know, right? Very good to know they're intelligent. But it makes I know, right? It makes some sense. It makes some sense because this month is about. It really is about getting fired up about you and your life. Okay. We tend to retreat as we become more fear-based. We tend to get smaller and we contract. We are operating in a culture in which the opinions of others seems paramount, and we tend to forget that the opinion of others really isn't that important in the end. What is important is that we find ourselves and we find out what we are all about, what our passions are, what makes our heart sing, what it is that we can do or deliver or be or contribute or see or feel or experience. That is what this month is about, is to learn that you matter on the level that you as an individual, your experience, your perceived weaknesses, because they're only your perception, and your strengths, the essence of you, all that you are, all that you've experienced, all that you will experience, matters so much that you should be allowed and you want to express it here. Express it here. Okay. I have something really unusual. I'm actually going to look at my phone, and I don't usually do that, but I'm going to do it this one time because I'm breaking all my other rules. Oh my God, it was so worth it. Okay. I got a really good message from my son. He never texts me. That's why I had to see what he had to say. Cool. Okay. Sorry for that break. He rarely texts, so when he does, I'm allowed to take a break because I'm not being what I'm supposed to be tonight anyway. I might as well just keep breaking. Break all my. That was good. Anyway, it was good news. There's a chickadee on our window feeder for the first time ever. We've feeding. So that was worth the break, right, guys?
Absolutely.
That's so important.
Even though our opinion doesn't matter, that's fine. Or shouldn't have.
I just want to know if you approve of me. Do you approve of me, Marie?
We're gonna go back to 6.
I better. Okay. All right. I've had the privilege, for the very first time I did a session in 2007, I've had the privilege of seeing people I've never met before, people that I've known. But when I do a session with someone and I am acting on behalf of your guides instead of me showing up there, as you can see, it's best I don't show up there. So luckily I don't. But acting on behalf of your guides, one of the great privileges that I have is that I see you through the eyes of your guides, which is profoundly more rich and vivid and filled with wonder and unlimited potential, more than most people will ever realize for themselves. So I usually have this little 60-minute opportunity to help you remember it, you know? So I get to interpret your guides and give you enough suggestions that you can manifest that realization more. Because if I could sit there with you for 60 minutes and I could type out what your guides really see in you, what they remember about you before you were born, who you really are, if I could do that and give that to you as a gift and then send you home and do no other session, that might be the best gift that you could take away. I've had a couple of times with clients where I actually hung up with someone with 15, 20 minutes left in the session and say, listen, I'm not going off duty here, but I'm going to channel with your guides and I'm going to send you something in writing later. I don't know why I did it, but it's happened a couple of times. And in both cases, the guides did exactly what I'm saying. They wrote through me how magnificent that client is, with the details and the verbiage that were like, oh my God, if you got that letter, how could you not just fall in love with yourself? And in the 2 cases that I did it, I want you to guess what the response was from each client.
Just happy.
Huh?
Happy. Disbelief. Didn't think it was them.
Exactly. They did not believe it was them. They felt appreciative, but they thought it was fiction. They did not believe it was them, the things that were written. And even with Karen being the interpreter, I knew it was accurate because I can, sense things about people that they're not sensing about themselves. And so that's what this is about, is to stop being someone else's version of yourself. Stop supposing limits. I was actually talking to my son about this today. When people around my age were younger, there was a very linear set of opportunities for us of what do you want to be when you grow up, and that set was very predictable. There was, you're going to be an astronaut or a fireman. There were not firewomen, or a teacher or a nurse or the president of the United States or this, that, and the other thing. I don't know how many career choices there were, but here they were, right? Okay, here you go. Take this test and we'll determine from this test which one you should be. Accountant, lawyer. No one should be a guitar player. Sorry, AB, because you can't make money playing guitar. But this is what life was like, right? Now, even though we had what seemed like such limited choice, we found our way in all of that. But today, you can make up a job. And if you believe in yourself enough to have people value what it is that you have decided you want to do, they'll pay you for it. And if you don't even want to be paid for it, you could go off the grid and find a way to live off the land. There are no limits anymore. Yet we still tell each other, do this, 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 right? And then we run around and we do it. Well, what happens when you're 65, or what happens when you get hurt, or what happens when this? Well, you know what? We have torn down over the last 20 years most of what we could count on as far as someone else taking care of us in our retirement, right? So if all that's been torn down to a large degree, then why the heck are we not doing what we want to do? What makes our heart sing? When somebody receives that which it is that makes your heart sing, you will be abundant and they will be abundant. And I'm only talking about expressing your soul through your income producing possibility. But what about expressing your soul outside of that? If you want the worry package that comes along with a pension and health care and all this stuff that we've been forced to believe is absolutely necessary, if you want to go that route, that's okay. But end it at 5 o'clock, go home, and then live your soul's intention, or at least try to find that package within something you really enjoy doing. I'm amazed at what people are putting up with at work. I'm amazed at how people are working at work, how they behave, how they treat each other. If I were not self-employed, I would have jumped out of all of that many, 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 many years ago. So if it's not working, don't do it anymore. And if you have to do it because you've convinced yourself that you have to do it, then find your way of expressing who you really are, what you're passionate about, what makes your heart sing. Find a way to do it outside of those work hours. And please, people, never be someone that tells someone else they have to stay after 5. We agreed to the damn 9 to 5 already. Stop getting people to agree the 7 to the 8. And I'm not talking an hour. Stop getting people to agree to that. That's not necessary. It's not necessary. We're going to be giving out speed at 8 o'clock at night because we need people to work 3 or 4 more hours before they go home. It's going to come with your paycheck. Here's 30 pills until your next paycheck so you can work from 8 till, and you know what? We're going to be like, thank you. Would I be able to have 2 because I have to stay till 3? No, you can't. You cannot. You cannot. Go home. Go play, go live, go be. Get the hell out of here. We don't want you here. That's the person you want to be, right? Yeah, okay. I'm so tired of these hours that people are giving. I'm so tired of us thinking it's essential and necessary. This is part of a dialogue that we're going to want to step into change come 2020. That wasn't very soft.
It's true though.
What month did I skip? Oh, I skipped the whole year. That was the theme for the year, so I just skipped the whole theme for the year. But isn't it softer to be at home doing something you love?
Yeah.
Really bad save, Karen, but good try. Oh, all right. Wow. No, I don't know who.
That was me.
Was it you? You know,
Oh
it's
my God, I can't believe
it's crazy because I didn't even have a session with anyone on that topic this week. That's why it was so weird the way I was taken over this time.
That's it. I actually, well, I left my job. It was from 7 in the morning till 6 at night. It was just too much.
Exhausting.
I said,
It's exhausting.
I'm done.
It's so
It's
exhausting.
crazy. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, is she really sick of I'm like, I did it. I just said something.
It's all about you. There is the center of the universe, everyone. We finally figured out where it is. It's right there. Good. I'm glad. I'm glad I was taken over for a reason because it was so unlike me. You know, it's really interesting. I know that 2020 on will be dramatically different. And I know that changes will happen very, very rapidly. And it intends to be evolutionary. But man, isn't it easy to get fired up to be a little revolutionary sometimes when you get onto these topics, right? So I decided to buy a state, maybe a state that no one recognizes exists. I'm going to buy that state and we're all just going to move there, all right? No rules, only one rule.
Why don't we just take this one over? Since we're here.
Uh,
Well, yeah, I know, right? Well, that could succeed.
yeah, I looked into what it would take. It's a big deal
Oh, wow.
because somebody legislated it be a big deal. Yeah, and you know what? I think politics is just opposed to freedom. Doesn't matter what country you're in. They just hate freedom. They just hate it. Although they kill people in the name of freedom, but boy, do they hate freedom. They just hate freedom. So that's the problem. We just got to get rid of politics, I guess. Right? Now, I'm willing to go back to let them take care of the street lights, the roads, the bridges. You know, let them take care of that. We got the rest.
But they ain't done a very good job at that currently.
Yeah, but maybe they'd have a lot more money because they wouldn't be spending it on, I don't even want to think of what they're spending it on. Anyway, hope I'm not on the watch list now.
A little rebellious there.
I know. Yeah, where was I? Before you took me over, before your guides told me you were having a seance. Okay, so yes.
So the building block is about getting fired up, about you and your
Getting
life.
fired up about your life, I have it. This is notable that, like I said, change. It doesn't necessarily happen at a moment. Like December 31st at 11:59 is not the end of the energy that we're living in. Everything, you know, comes in waves, and then there are peaks. However, I think there's a little bit of a definable time period that I'm noticing, and you guys think about this for a second, because I love like the science of, is this so, is this so, is this so? So you guys tell me if you think you've noticed it or observed it. But I've observed that children that were incubating when 9/11 happened are very different than children that were born before that. It's interesting. So if a woman was carrying a baby on 9/11, that group of kids is different than the ones born right before it. I feel like there's something in them that's going to really help redirect our nation and maybe even the world. There's something about them that they're giving themselves permission to be who they are. Okay. At least I feel like that energy is within them. They're thinking of things that are a little bit radical for us because we never thought of this. I mean, I know of people who are making a lot of money through the advertising on YouTube or Instagram. Like when you were a little kid, did you ever say, I want to make my fortune from the advertisements on Instagram because I'm going to have 6 million followers and I want to get information out there. All I got to do is put a post up 6 times a day and I'm good to go. It's amazing. They're inventing stuff constantly. How many people are making a living at being gamers, right? They take all of Madison Square Garden for competitions where the greatest competitors will compete, and the stadium fills up with people who watch.
Yes.
Mhm.
We watch.
Nobody's going on the injured reserve list.
And they pay tickets to go see this. They fill. It's not a stadium, is it? Is it a stadium? Yeah. At Madison
Yes,
Square.
yeah,
Yes, it's a garden. It's a garden. You go into the garden in Madison Square. It's a square garden. But they're not tilling the soil, right? They're not planting their corn kernels. They're not, begging for rain and, blessing things so the locusts don't come in. They're just inventing stuff and making a living at it. So listen, if these guys can do that, why can't we? Why can't you do what you want to do? Invent it. Reinvent yourself. Do it if you want to. You can do it. You can do it, right? Yeah. All right. Anyone have a thought, like someone popping into your head that was like growing during 9/11? Can you think of anybody?
Well, what about all the kids with the guns? How they're making an impact with the gun legislation that we would, all
Absolutely.
adults
Yes.
have
Yes.
been able to accomplish.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
those are all that age
Huh?
group.
They said they were all born around 2001.
Yes. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. That's a
I
really
think they're
good
like 8,
example.
18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
they're
I'm-
all like high
and-
school graduates.
I'm not saying that there aren't, hands reaching in either direction before and after. There is, again, because energy doesn't start on a specific day. I just am noticing that I'm seeing independent thinking among those children, independent thinking, that they're not even necessarily fighting what is, they're not assuming that what is. And it's an interesting, different way of looking. So they're more apt to break down walls because they're not fighting anything, right? They're just saying, no, that's not so. No, I don't agree with that. No, Interesting, right?
It is interesting, but if you look at the opposite end of the spectrum, the children that were alive,
Oh, that's
during
another
9/11,
story.
it's a
It's a completely different story.
The environmental impacts of 9/11 in every sense of the word environment has so dramatically altered their psyches that they are struggling in ways that the baby boomers couldn't even imagine people struggling.
Yes, I totally agree with that too. And I will take full credit for that, or full responsibility for it, because it's our fault. We did this to that generation. They didn't do it to themselves. Anyone that ever uses a term that's derogatory to people that are under 30, you come and you send them to me, because I will straighten them out. Because the person calling someone something less than magnificent who's under 30, I'm going to tell you, that person, you are the one responsible for it. You caused this. So you're sitting in it now. So you're sitting in it. If you want to fix it, go fix it, because you're the one that did it. We are the ones that did it. We made this generation so afraid of everything. And as soon as they had a little independence or a little freedom, we grabbed that from them too, with our fears and our suffocating and our smothering and our nagging and all of that stuff, all in the, under the umbrella of, I love you so much, I want to keep you. Well, you didn't make them safe, did you? If you think that being in a basement is safe and not getting a driver's license or a job or having fun or playing football or playing beach volleyball, if you think that that's safe, fine. They have no broken fingers. But you know what? There's plenty of people playing volleyball that have no broken fingers too, because they're living rationally in the belief that life is good and everything is okay, right? Yes, we are responsible for that 100%. And I think we should fix it. I really think we should. We should never criticize the outcome of what we did. I didn't do it, but we, as in the royal we.
Can I ask
I really did try not to do that. I really did encourage my kids always to be more active and less afraid. I did try constantly to strip away the fears that were giving to them in schools. Yeah, absolutely. I did my best. I had a way of saying things that I would always say, did you see it with your own eyes? Did you hear it with your own ears? Did you feel it with your own hands? Whatever they were saying that they were getting all afraid of, inevitably I said, well, then how do you know it's true? How do you know it's true? So I taught them when they were very, very little to not take the word of anybody about anything unless they could decide. It doesn't mean everybody's wrong about everything. It means only 99.9% of everybody is wrong about everything. But that, that 0.01% where someone else could be right about something to be afraid of, they'll figure it out. Intuitively, they'll understand it if they learn to listen to themselves. They just keep learning to listen to themselves, right? Someone was going to say something over here.
Just so that I'm clear, because I don't have kids. So 9/11 happened in 2001. So it's in 2001 after, that's when they had the helicopter moms and that kind of thing. So then the ones previous to that. What's the difference between that energy and this energy? Like ever since that day, like things.
Well, remember how I said no energy really begins on the day. It is the kids that were born before the incident on 9/11. We definitely added a contribution of exacerbating us heading toward being more fear-based. But the more exact kickoff of being more fear-based was actually the 1980s. The 1980s was when we signed up as a whole and as a nation to be litigious, to hold everybody outside of ourselves accountable for every single thing that went wrong. And that's when they started to close down playgrounds. And that's when we had to sign affidavits and waivers and, make sure that everything is up to code and safety. Is there a place for some of that? Minimally. Common sense does a good job. But we've taken common sense away from people. So the 1980s is what officially kicked it off. And then 2001, 9/11 drove it home. Basically, it said, if you guys are going to keep living like this, in this litigious way, where everybody's at fault all the time and you get some kind of financial windfall because of it, even if you're making it up, and they do make it up, if that's the case, then we're going to slam you into not having freedom anymore that comes with common sense and intuition and living from the vibration of love. We have to keep showing you more of what it is you're asking for until you decide that you don't want it anymore. Okay, apparently the pain that we have created from those two periods has not been great enough, because we're still asking for more legislation, more rules, more OSHA, more this, that, and the other thing, because people can't think for themselves anymore. They just can't. Someone else has to think for them, you know?
Is it because they create those loopholes and that kind of thing, or is it just more than just?
Well, you create two kinds of people. You create the people who are followers, and there are more followers than leaders. And the leaders who are tired of being over-legislated and overruled, they become rebels. So there's usually a little bit of an angry energy behind it, not in a positive way. And those are the ones that, you know, blow things up because they're trying somehow on some level of consciousness to regain their freedom. So it doesn't create a harmonious outcome in either regard, those who follow the rules or who don't follow the rules. It tends to just kind of destroy everything, everybody. You know, if you put up a sign that says no swimming allowed by the ocean, guess what I'm going to do?
Jump in.
Exactly. As long as the temperature of the water is 82 degrees over. Then I'll definitely jump in. I'm not going to test the water first. I'm not going to look for shark alerts. I'm not going to walk up and down the beach to see if there are jellyfish. I'm going into the water. If you tell me not to, I will. Okay? That's my little way of making a difference.
I think that the other element of this is, like, beyond the helicoptering, is that the power structure crumbled, right? There's this whole destabilizing element of it. And then when that generation tried to take power, the other generation was like, no, 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 give me that back, right? So there was this like, oh, there's no power structure. Oh, no, there's like, no one's strong. And then when they try to worm their way in and take those roles, they're like, oh, wait,
let me have that back. Yeah, let me take that back. Yeah, let me take that
so
back.
So there was that uncertainty, and then the taking away as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Which added to this
every generation has their own specific world in which they live, and every generation has to find their method for managing the world in which they live. You know, I mean, you think back to any old-time movie or TV show, it's always a bunch of grown-ups sitting around saying kids today, right? That's since the beginning of time, kids today. And yet generation after generation managed to get us to the next generation. So they always found their way. And these generations, they're going to find their way too. It might not be your way, might not be my way, but they're going to find their way. Because ultimately, when we're not in these bodies anymore, they're the only ones left to do it, right? Unless they're listening to me, because I'm going to be guiding them. I help them every step of the way that I can.
For a few years, I've attended a memorial of 9/11 down on Lido Beach. And it came to a point where I think 2 years ago, I sat there and I was guided to say, what about the kids? What about the kids that are being born now from parents, you know, that were pregnant or lost a loved one or whatever? So they're going to get born without one of their parents, possibly in that situation. But I said, they're going to be the ones who are going to lead us. They truly are. It's going to break down the walls that we've been putting up for so long.
Yeah.
And
I do think that, you know, whether a child was directly affected or not by the happenings on 9/11, I do think that the generation itself will be the ones to turn things on their side. And not just things that we see obvious, but everything that we have come to count on as having some level of permanence. I think we're going to see over the next few decades the oldest institutions just crumble. The oldest expectations of what we think should be there just start to dissolve. And our belief that something will always be there, it's not going to be there always. It's just not. So that's part of the preparedness for 2020 is if we can't self-navigate and everything we counted on outside to make our decisions for us disappears, then we're going to die. We have to learn how to self-navigate. I'm not talking about in I can't say an apocalyptic way, not by any means. I'm saying by creating, and I hate to use this terminology because it sounds so airy-fairy, but we are creating a new world. And the idea is to create the new world with intention, not by accident. Evolution is about creating a new world with intention and not by revolution or through violence, but to create it intentionally. The trip to Grenada, which I should probably mention, the trip to Grenada in January of 2020, one of the things, I don't have the agenda completely yet. I do know it's going to be memorable and meaningful. Not only are we going to have adventures in Grenada in the native kind of way, not as tourists. Don't come as a tourist. We're not going to be experiencing Grenada as tourists. But not only are we going to enjoy the culture there and the experience there, but we're also going to be leaving with, think of it as a packet of possibilities for the next decade. How to manage the impending energy, how to embrace it, how to capitalize on it, how to maneuver it, how to help others enjoy it instead of fear it. That's going to be part of it, no doubt. No doubt. No doubt. And it's time for a change. There's so many things that we're so cemented to believing it's the only way, like a 4-year degree. Really? Are we really going to stay cemented to that being an essential determining factor of your worth? We're trying to amp it up and say you have to have a post-bachelor's degree. We're trying to say that now you're not worthy until you have this, that, or the other thing. But come on, if you're graduating and you have $200,000 worth in debt and you're making $60,000 a year, doesn't add up. Doesn't add up.
Next 20 or 30 years.
Doesn't add up.
Till all the professors die out.
Yeah, the whole idea is that
universities are going to start to dissolve.
There are adventurous organizations out there that are willing to not read the script. Google, I haven't read anything about it recently, but they implemented a program where they encourage people to apply for jobs without a college education. They did ask of you to, show us what you're bringing to the table, what makes you unique, what makes you different, what are you going to offer, what will your contribution be. But this is a policy of theirs. They're not going to necessarily expect the expected. Okay, I know for me, I sure as heck would prefer someone with a little gusto and a little bit of personality and a little bit of courage with no degree than someone that passively went through and got all the right grades. Give me that person with some fire. Give me some person who doesn't care that much what other people think. As long as they have passion and vision and they're vibrating with the vibration of love, I'll take them over anyone else. Any day, ever. Yeah. I'm going to mention this as often as I possibly can because I can't get it done in this lifetime. But of all the things I want to get done in this lifetime, this is probably one I probably personally will not do. So if I mention it often enough, someone will take the ball and run with it, right? But I would love to create a website kind of clearinghouse thing where we actually rank all institutions from stores to businesses to hotels to hospitals to local governmental organizations to big governmental organizations, and we rank them based on how close they're vibrating to the vibration of love. I have in my head, we can talk about love here outside of this room. No one's going to go to a website that says that in particular. But I do have ways that we can have criteria that are a measure of whether a group is living with a heart center or not. There are definitely ways we can do that. However, I know the pitfalls. We see trolling and anger on the internet all the time, but there are ways to make this work. And one of the ways to make this work is that we have, when you are registered as a user, you get a certain number of points per month. The points have to be spent a certain amount for positive expressions of your interaction with an organization before you have permission to put in a negative expression. And there will also be ways that companies that are bashed, that they can make amends, that they can earn the right to be perceived as a worthy company to have commerce with, or a worthy political group to exist. Do you follow me?
Yeah.
So it's taking away the bad elements. And I believe if we all turn our attention to this, we're only going to work at the companies with the high ratings, right? What happens to the companies that don't have the high ratings anymore? No profit. No profit. No $624 million bonus in December, sir. Right? All of it disappears because we don't want you anymore because you're not vibrating high enough for us. You're just not. So we're not giving you our money. We're not giving you our checks. We're not giving you a good rating on our website, period.
Do you, there is a woman, her name is Christina, she's a psychic medium. Do you know, she said that in the future, that people are going to be rated by their popularity, whatever it is. They're going to have some type of device, this is what she's predicting, that, you know, we rate each other. Do you like, and that is, I believe, from what you're saying, if you like that person, if they're vibrating on, like, if they're nice, businesses.
I follow you.
Said that this is going to become.
You know what? I think that what you're saying is, and I got to repeat the question, but you're basically saying that someone predicted that we're going to have rating systems where we say whether we like people or not, and you're going to be, I guess, having more success or benefits if you're more popular on the rating system. Right. I actually think that to a large degree, social media is doing that right now. Okay. And what we're seeing is that it doesn't work. So good news. We tried it. It sucks. Yeah. So we're going to find ways to step away from it. So I do see that. And oftentimes, if you get a psychic hit that's farther in the future, it's a little more metaphoric, and then you can see how it plays out because there's nothing predefined. Everything is about propensity. And as soon as a person or a group or a country changes or shifts what they're thinking, feeling, or believing, or the subsequent actions that they take based on what they think, feel, and believe, then the outcome changes. So when we're closer to the center of this moment, it's easier to predict an outcome, which I see all the time when I'm working with clients. But the farther we get away from this point of power, the more apt it is to shift or to change. Okay? And if this were a blackboard instead of a gorgeous sunny lake with a pretty bench right here. If this were a blackboard, I would show you just a quick thing. Like if this is a circle and
you can write it on there.
On where?
You can write it on that.
Oh, I can do that. Yeah, okay. I can do that. Okay, so.
There's a thing right over here. Clipboard.
Oh, wow. Life just keeps getting better and better and better. And there's a marker. I like green better. Okay, so if, I mean, think about this. It's actually pretty interesting to see. Guides. I like blue. Blue is a pretty color. Oh, I know why. Because green probably wouldn't show up. Would it? Okay. So guides have always shown me, like when they always want to explain to me time. Time is like the rays that come off the sun, right? And in any given second, you're walking on a ray of time, which is like one ray. It's actually a series of still photos that you pull through the projector of the human experience, since all happenings occur simultaneously, right? But as you're moving on this particular ray of time, what you think, feel, believe, and the subsequent actions that you take habitually, your guides can predict exactly what it's going to happen down the road. And a lot of cases, not all, but a lot of cases when I'm working with a client you know, what we see at the end of that line is that, right? Ooh, sorry. Is unhappiness. So what the guides do is say, well, let's see if we can shift to a ray of time where we see happiness at that ray, right? And now think about this. When you're here at the center of the moment of now, making a shift is just going over a millimeter, right? But then the outcome is that trajectory will, after you leave, even though you only moved a millimeter now from the point of now, as that trajectory goes out, the divide gets massive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's why shifting something that you think, feel, or believe, or the subsequent actions that you take today have a pronounced effect on your entire life, including your date of death. You follow? Which I find so fascinating. And sometimes if I'm very emphatic during sessions, it's because I am understanding this with a client that I can't shake you, but come on, listen. If you just change this one little thing you're thinking, one little thing you're feeling, one little thing you're believing, everything changes. Everything changes. Okay? What was I talking about before that?
Ratings.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yes, I do believe that we've already experienced what she predicted, that in social media, this is it. In my son's junior class, I'm trying to remember which class it was. Can't remember. Let's just say it was English, but it probably wasn't. It was probably some social science class. But what they did was they handed out a little bit of a survey. And one of the things that they asked, you could have been anonymous if you wanted to, but it was interesting that every kid in the room chose to not be anonymous with it. But the question was, if you could take away social media, now knowing that juniors in high school, their whole life is all about a device, right? Mm-hmm. If you could take away social media and never know that it had existed and that it wouldn't reappear, would you?
Yes.
Every single solitary kid in the room said yes. They would forego social media if they could.
Because they're tired of it.
Isn't that fascinating? They actually, even though they live by it, so many of them,
they're tired of it.
They don't like it ultimately. They know their lives would be better and stronger and more rewarding and more fun if they were doing something other than this. And they're only 17 years old, 16. 15, right? It's interesting. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a quick, abrupt break. Right, go take a break. I just realized time does exist according to Earth right now. I did. And we're back. Oh, man. Okay, so everyone's up to you got 6 months under your belt. You're all ready for 2020?
Yeah.
Before I start our next topic, I should check the chat room. I never do that.
On the bottom right.
Okay.
Well,
all right. If they want to write to me, they can, because now they know I'm going to pay attention. Because I will, because I said it. I will. I'll pay attention. Okay, so Grenada. If you are interested in coming and you're pretty sure that you will be attending, if you give the deposit before July 1st, you'll have the protection of the prices that are online right now. A couple of little things are shifting and the prices will be going up on July 1st for those who haven't put their deposit in. I don't think it'll go up terribly, not at all, but there are some things that are going up. Okay, based on my original estimates, now the real numbers are coming in. I'm signing contracts and numbers aren't where I thought they were going to be or where I was told they would be necessarily.
Do you want to just give the date?
The dates are January 16th through January 20th for the year before us, 2020. All right, so I just wanted to make sure that you knew that because, like I said, they are going to go up. They are going up, but I didn't anticipate that when I put the website together. Otherwise, I would have been mentioning it for months that the prices will be going up a little bit in July. Okay? All right, cool. Good. Said it.
2020.
Yes, that's why that's the day that not only do people get a 3-day weekend if that's the date that they, if your company gives you that day off, it's a federal holiday. So it's nice to get a 3-day weekend so you don't have to take all that much time off if you want to come. But I do love that we'll be having our last day on January 20th of 2020. Like so many things that I do, it always seems to just align. That feels incredibly appropriate. And of course, anyone that's ever attended a multiple day seminar with me knows that there's always some kind of fun surprise at the end. Who knows what it'll be, but there'll be something. Might be a 2-hour one. Huh? What'd you say?
Also, you give away cars?
Pull out the little thing taped to the bottom of your chair. Yeah. I got a glow in the dark ring. Yay! All right, so I wanted to make sure you guys knew that because I didn't have the time, like I said, to put that out there because I just only found out. I'm going to answer questions. How's that sound?
Yay.
You did.
In November with Paul Young. Is that a 2-day event or a 1-day?
Oh, November. Let's talk about that.
It's on the paper.
No, but I'm not clear about
Dates.
it.
Okay, so Paul Young is the author of The Shack.
It's on the paper that looks like this. It's on the.
Okay, so the date is, so the date of the event is, I think it's a 6-hour event on Saturday, November 9th. You can register on my website, KarenGarvey.com, right? So you can register there, and there's like better seating or regular general seating when you register. But there's also an option to attend a private viewing of The Shack, the movie, the Thursday night before, which is November 7th. And that's another option. So there's basically 3 options on my website for registering. You can register for the day with a general admission, or you can register for the day with better seating, or you can register for the day and Thursday night. You can't register only for Thursday night. They didn't make that an opportunity. Okay?
So you register for.
And Thursday night includes dinner. Saturday includes food and
so Saturday,
beverages all day.
Thursday and Saturday are connected.
If you can't register for Thursday without Saturday, but you can register for Saturday without the private viewing of the movie.
Thank you much.
I've heard great things about the movie. I've heard great things about the book. I've heard great things about everything. I've never read it. I stopped reading anything with a spiritual bent when I came out of the closet with this. So I haven't read one since, and I really don't intend to change that policy because there's a lot of evidence that the things I'm saying out there, they come out in books also. And I think it's nice to have this validation that we're tapping into the same river of universal knowledge. And my preference is not to regurgitate other people's work. So I would rather stay getting what I get without, I don't even want to unconsciously regurgitate someone's work, even if I don't do it knowingly. I would never do it knowingly, but I don't want to even accidentally do it. It's not my preference at all for me personally. Huh?
It's a very interesting book.
Yes.
Oh, is it?
If I could have manifested
interesting.
5 things in this life.
Can someone come read it to me?
What's that?
Can someone come read it to me? Because then I'll still honor I'm not reading this. Yeah. I'm just going to have a private moment here. You guys just carry on.
Another one? Another one?
Not a private moment. Through the awakening process, I am always feeling torn between strongly wanting to be in a relationship and strongly wanting to be alone and never commit to anyone again. Wow. This has gotten frustrating for me, and I'm wondering what I can do to find peace with this feeling. That's a really good question. And you're not the only one. You're not alone in the alone versus together thing. A lot of people are experiencing this. And what it all comes down to is that, like the website I described about understanding the vibrational energy of an organization, every person has a vibrational energy too. And when you become more enlightened, the pool of possibilities of compatibility in an intimate relationship, the pool does get smaller. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. And what is not tempting is to dial down your level of awareness to accommodate someone that has not yet necessarily hit that level. And so that's a pretty big compromise to ask of yourself to be able to, help someone through getting hopefully to where you are. And there's no guarantee it's going to work anyway, even if you want to live in that kind of compromise, because who's saying you're done? You're not done. So if you continue to expand and grow and they're barely hanging on or catching up, then you're going to continue to have that feeling. And nobody wants to be their romantic partner's mother or father. Well, maybe some of you do, but I don't. But I'm going to intuit that the person who wrote the question doesn't want to be. And so that's not your role. Let the mothers and fathers do that. And if they screwed it up, let the mother and father themselves. So the whole idea is that, but there is an alternative. Number one, seek events and people and places that have the commonality of soulfulness being the intention. So this group would be somewhere where you can meet someone, fall in love, get married, live happily ever after, and so on. And it's happened, and I've married them. Yes. I have, gone and done that thing and actually wed them by the power vested in me by the internet. That does happen. So you got to make sure that you're really surrounding yourself by that which it is that you are believing to be true about yourself. If you're going to stay in the settings and with the people that are reflective of who you used to be before you had more experience, you're going to get, your being. You don't necessarily have to. You don't necessarily have to even do what we're supposing is one person for one person. So there's alternatives that if someone is reaching a higher level of awareness with you, if you have a conversation with integrity and the relationship evolves to that, you can redefine the nature of your relationship so you can actually have both, which is companionship, friendship, whatever else you want, good sex. You can have all of that, and you can also have aloneness. One of the things that I do find is that it's easier to have a conversation now today than it was even when I started this 10 years ago about a person's desire for alone time in a relationship that is not a reflection of the partner. So having one person have to hold hands and touch thumbs 24/7 while the other person needs to revamp and get out of their head and contact for 4 hours a day, obviously there's a conflict there, right? But it's okay now. The dialogues that we can have today versus 10 years ago, it's easier to say, this is not a reflection of you. And we can talk about how healthy it is to be alone and how that's beneficial to the relationship to have a balance between alone time and together time. It's good for me, it's good for you, it's good for everybody. A person who clings too much, it tends to come from their own insecurities, that if you're not by their side, that they are going to be at risk of losing you. You're going to find something better or more interesting out there, like something that glows in the dark. Ooh, right? So they don't want you to see a shiny object, and that might make them feel more secure. It's great to spend time together, and it's wonderful, but we also have to remember that the only thing that's finite is our lifespan, right? So the universe is infinite. Time is infinite. Everything is infinite except for your time span in this body. Therefore, it creates a lot of resistance if anyone tells you exactly what you should do with that one finite thing within the infinite. It's a contrast to begin with to manage time, but to have someone else narrate or dictate how that time should be spent is going to make a highly evolved relationship have challenges to begin with. So the answer is there are always other ways to look at this. There are always other ways to express it. There are always ways to be soulful and still have amount of alone time that would be right for you. You know, I have, whenever I'm out of town, I have a lot of beautiful and wonderful and accommodating clients that, you know, offer for me to stay with them. It's not that easy. When I'm done with seminars, I can't talk to you. I just can't. I have to be alone, you know, and it's not that I want to be alone. It's that I actually have to, because if I continue to talk indefinitely, I forget water, I forget food, I drift completely away from my body, I don't sleep, and then I'm not good to the group that came to see me tomorrow. So I know the way to get back into my body in a good way, not in a bad way, is to be alone after seminars. So I know that that's essential. So you just learn how to communicate, how balancing it is for you to have endeavors that don't include another person. So I do think that there's a solution, which is good.
One down, 29 to go.
Can you elaborate on the energy of fear is the same as hate? Just as it's so much easier if you look at love and hate in terms of light and darkness. If you're in a cave, can you introduce light? How?
Light, candle.
Candle.
Yes.
What else can you do?
Flashlight.
Flashlight. Sparkler. Sledgehammer. Smash a hole in the side of the cave, right? There's plenty of ways to introduce light into a dark cave. Can you introduce darkness into a light space? No, you cannot. You can block light, but you can't introduce darkness. Darkness does not exist. Darkness is the absence of light, right? Cold is the absence of heat. You can't introduce cold, okay? So the whole idea is the same is true with love. Love is everything. Love is existence itself. Anytime anything is disharmonious, you are separating from the vibration of love. And if you completely separate to a very, very large degree, what that feels like is hate, and what that feels like is fear. Fear is the absence of love, and hate is the absence of love. It's socially irresponsible now to outwardly hate. Doesn't mean people aren't doing it, but it's socially irresponsible now in today's world. But it's not socially irresponsible for us to fear, right? It's encouraged. We're constantly encouraging each other to be afraid, constantly encouraging each other to be afraid. Therefore, at this moment, the absence of the loving vibration as expressed through fear is more insidious and more harmful than hate, period. Did that elaborate on it?
There was a great book that out there I read a few years ago when Jerry just posted Love versus Fear.
Oh, really? Love versus fear. Terry, what were you going to say?
Only two
Love.
People who fear think that they're
Helping. I know.
helping.
I know.
So, like,
I know.
you have to wear a helmet before you do. So they think, and so they will not say that that's absence of love. They say that's because
I
of
know.
love.
I do
So how
get
do you
that.
make
That's
them
why
understand
it's
that?
that's why it's so insidious. You know, when people actually lose even more freedom than they have given up to fear, then they're going to, something inside of them, their soul's going to kick in and say, I'm not going to take this anymore. Ultimately, the soul is very, very powerful. You know, the human spirit ultimately is very, very powerful and resilient and courageous. And eventually, whether it's a person or a group or a nation or a globe, they will burst out of those shackles ultimately, deliberately and intentionally, and sometimes forcibly. Okay, that's where we're heading. That is where we're heading. The force part is the one we want to be concerned about, but to do so courageously and take back your freedom, it will happen. You cannot imprison someone indefinitely without there being a consequence for that imprisonment. And fear, encouraging fear among others, is an imprisonment that we feel. We feel the imprisonment. And we will feel it worse and worse and worse the less we're allowed to do. Okay? Oh, you're welcome. Okay, next. I saw one that was open. What glows in the dark? And what are that was the first one. Oh, someone showed me today, yeah, someone showed me today that they have this emerging possibility of allowing trees to grow to be phosphorescent. My interpreter. And what that means is that the trees can glow. So the image that they sent me was of no more street lights, but just glowing trees. And the yeah, it was really cool. Why did I say that? What was I working on?
What glows in the dark?
Oh, that's what glows in the dark. Obviously, it came to me today for a reason. Thank you for being my bookmark constantly. Keep paying attention to where I am. Please. What are the signs of vibrational force? I'm not sure what I don't know what this person means by the word force. I personally, I use the word force where you are intrusive, okay? And it has a slightly an invasive energy to force. I look at power as a pull, as magnetic energy. So what are the signs of vibrational energy? An increase in vibrational energy just means that a person becomes more warm and inviting and less contentious, less of a fight, just more vibrant, in some cases having more hobbies and interests and things that excite them. They're just more alive. Someone with a high vibrational energy just shows the vigors of life that they are enjoying. Okay? But I don't know if I answered the question. I hope I did. Let's see. Okay. A big help sign on this one. Okay, help is on the way. How do I stop manifesting physical illness? Okay, I need a list. How do I stop manifesting physical illness? This was one of the areas in which I did have the greatest stride as I embarked on the process of enlightenment. So not only can I talk about it theoretically and downloading what guides say, but I can also tell you from experience that it's possible. If you take the premise that everything here is an illusion, this life that we're living, the body is housing the soul. So everything that we're experiencing here on earth has value to increase our opportunity for recovery and expansion of the soul. So it's not that we're inviting in challenges, but we are embarking on a journey where experiencing things that feel confining or limiting gives us opportunities to break open into new perceptions, new ways of thinking or feeling or believing or actions that we take. So we are born in bodies that are designed to be whole and healthy for life. The incidence of illness and the variety of illness is actually through the roof. But the incidence of illness and body disharmony is a consequence of fear, living in a fear-based society. Not only is it a consequence of living living in the fear of society. But we have to remember that we're projecting consciousness into this physical manifestation. If we collectively say something often enough, it actually becomes almost like an earthly part of fact. We can overturn that fact ultimately with a lot of people putting the opposite conscious thought out there. But while it's a fact, it can affect those of us who are susceptible to it or can have a benefit from having that particular body disharmony. So fear is making each other sick, and not only just making us sick, but it's making others sick. And a great example of that is that when I was in school, and for a lot of you, there was really no such thing as nut allergies. And now we can all see the isolation and the list, and there's been such an extreme growth in nut allergies that I know a lot of school districts don't even allow homemade cupcakes in school for children's birthday parties anymore. So it has to come in a box with a label. They can't even bring in munchkins. So we've gone from one place to another. So how does the change happen so rapidly in 30 years? I'm 32. How does that happen in 30 years? The way it happens is that the easiest way to say it is to tell it like a fable, because then it doesn't sound so grueling or negative. But let's say that the story goes that there was a 4-year-old boy that died. Now, everyone with a 4-year-old person in their house said, I need an explanation why that kid died and not mine. Right? So they saw it and saw it and saw it. Nothing was proven as to why this kid died, but somebody said, oh, I heard he had a peanut butter sandwich that day. Oh my God, he must have been allergic to the peanuts, right? 1,000 people come to the wake and the funeral. Those 1,000 people go out as little minions telling other people that a boy died because he was allergic to nuts. Okay? Now a few towns over, same thing happens. Little girl, right? Everyone wants to know why their child's not going to die. They need an explanation, a finite answer why my kid is safe or my grandkid is safe or my neighbor is safe. They're like, well, her mother told me that she had a peanut butter sandwich at lunch, and did you hear that little so-and-so and 2 towns over died of allergic to nuts? And they're like, oh my God, you're right. This person died of peanut allergy. With this, we now have exponentially how many people are afraid of peanuts? 10,000, 20, 30,000, 40,000. This continues until the little peanuts on the plants in Georgia soaking up some sun. They're like, hey, George, did you know that we kill children? And he's like, no, it's New York. New York. They just told us. And then all of a sudden, children, and all of a sudden the physiological chemical properties of itself changes in response to the fear that we created. Boom. That's how it works. We project consciousness. We create everything. And yet someone who wasn't necessarily afraid of peanuts now can still die of peanut allergies easily, because we're part of the collective as well. Not only are we supposed to be more aware intuitively for ourselves, but we're also supposed to be stewards of one another by not allowing people to define and contract their lives through fear. But we don't do that. We promote fear. And when we promote fear, every single thing that we can think of to become afraid of becomes a real thing. So it's inevitable we're going to have more body disharmonies. So I say opt out. Opt out. I have opted out of illness. That's what I've done. Has anyone known me to be sick since you've met me? No. Have I ever missed an appointment? A seminar? Have you ever seen me sick? Ever? No. Because I haven't been. And I used to be a person that was sick on a regular basis, and I would get exotic illnesses, and I would get things that doctors were trying to tell me were chronic. I did it all. I did it all, and I don't do it anymore. I opted out of illness. I now communicate with my cells about their ability to thrive, about how healthy they are. I saw something, somebody posted, I think, in Piece It Together the other day, that if your cells are regenerating completely in your body every certain number of days, why do you keep bringing an old set of ideas into a brand new body, right? Because that's what we do all the time. We're always bringing an old set of ideas into a brand new body. I'm going to say this the way that I say it because I know it's possible. If you don't believe that it's possible, at least you have a location that could be a destination toward body harmony. Even if you get a little farther than where you are, it's still better than buying into I will always be chronically ill. There is an exemption. Okay? Right now, there is a collective belief in certain properties of physical science. All right? Right now, humans can't grow back a limb. But that's silliness that we can't grow back a limb because lobsters grow back their limbs, right? So it's just a misbelief that we can't grow back our limbs. However, we collectively agree that we can't grow back our limbs, right? There are other things that we collectively agree upon. That some illnesses, it's going to be difficult to remove them from your existence in this lifetime. It's just going to be difficult because of collective consciousness. It doesn't mean that you can't invite and intend improvement, okay? But if the finger is off, the finger's going to be off until you die, right? So there's also some nature of acceptance that within the level of awareness of humanity at this moment, there are limits because of the level of awareness of humanity about how you can regenerate your body, your relationship with harmony. There are going to be limits. 300 years from now, I don't think that there will be at all. And then the other part of it too is one of the best ways to help yourself not experience new illnesses is to go through the process that I talk about over and over and over again. An illness or a body disharmony is a message. It's your body saying there's something you forgot that you knew when you were born, and we would like to just remind you of it. So metaphorically, it will affect a body part that helps you to interpret the message. So the three-part process of releasing body disharmonies is number one, interpret the metaphor of the disharmony. Number two, find the benefits in the body disharmony. You know, it's easy to say, well, you know, stage 4 cancer, I don't see any benefits. It's not true. Certainly not true. What benefit could there be in stage 4 cancer? There are benefits. Doesn't necessarily have to be that you're going to experience the benefit in this earth life, but there's an opportunity for discovery within it, for yourself, for others, for the world, for your soul, and so on. And when that discovery is made, read up on spontaneous healings. There have been people that have come back from the brink of death from things that nobody knows why they came back. It's a shift in total body perception. It's a shift in getting the message that came from the opportunity from the body disharmony to begin with. It's that major shift. Sometimes it's a profound shift. But the body disharmony is knocking on our door to ask us to bring in that shift. There's never one benefit from a body disharmony. There are always many benefits from a body disharmony. So don't grab the low-hanging fruit and say, got it. Keep letting it simmer. Keep a pad by your desk and let your guides communicate with you about all of the benefits of a body disharmony. Okay, and there are obvious ones and there are subtle ones, but the most important obvious one is that we do oftentimes elicit more care and love and attention and affection from one another because we don't live in a high vibrational energy world yet. And therefore, illness is a socially acceptable way to get more compassion, to get more feeling, to get more connection right? We started this day out by talking about the lack of connection, but a body disharmony brings us back together. It brings people back with ideas or suggestions or even something hands-on. It brings us back together. And another thing is that since we are hyper living our lives right now, overpacked with sometimes a lot of nonsense, body disharmony also gives us permission to forego responsibility, right? And for a lot of people, it's give back responsibility to other people that they can manage themselves, and you don't have to be the one that qualifies whether or not they can manage it. It's not up to you to decide. Do you manage your life? Yes. Let them manage their lives. So responsibility, it could be social, it could be spiritual, it could be emotional, it could be financial, it could be physical, it could be intellectual. Let people take care of their own responsibility, give it back to them. And then you may be able to see the benefit of the body disharmony that it is that you received. The last part of it is when you do figure out the benefits and you find out the metaphor behind the body disharmonies, then the earthly partner for reharmonizing somehow finds you. Okay, you put your intention out there, but the earthly partner for harmonization can find you. And it really doesn't matter what that earthly partner is, whether it's a pill or a massage or a chiropractor or a different way of eating, whether it's, I know a guy that was really, really sick because he used sunblock 80 and he had virtually no vitamin D in his body. Okay, so whatever the earthly partner is will find a way to find you if you meet it halfway. All right. There's something else I was going to say about that, about the earthly. Oh, yeah, the earthly partner will come around. You don't have to. Don't go be sitting in no stupid cave healing yourself. That's bullshit. We're not alone. You need love. You need companionship. You need people. You need support. You need all this stuff. Could you? Could I lock you in a room until you healed and beat that stupid misbeliefs out of your head until you reharmonize? Sure, but that does not sound like fun. And I'll tell you, if you stuck me in a room and told me to heal myself, I would never heal, because then I'd be micromanaging my own stupid fears and thoughts constantly, you know? I'd probably grow sicker and sicker and sicker. Got to get out of your head. Got to get out of your head. Think.
Nailed it.
You know, and getting out of your head, one of the challenges I see in an increasing way right now is, yeah, you heard me sigh, right? You wanted to give me a hug? Okay. One of the real increasing challenges that I see is because there's so much fear out there. People are really micromanaging the way that they live, what they consume, how they eat, ingredient lists, keeping logs, keeping journals. Why is this not working like it used to?
Put a pin in it.
Think. Oh, I did it. Okay.
Put it on the side. Right there.
Okay, so people are, I see people who have serial chronic illnesses or, you know, one particular chronic illness, and they're keeping diaries. How many ounces, what the ingredients are, when was my last bowel movement, what did my urine look like, what did it smell like, what did it taste like? It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. And what you focus on will expand. So if you're looking to that degree at how you ingest or let out, you're focusing on disharmony and illness, right? And you put your focus into it, and in between the logs, you're on WebMD, right? Who has had an infected splinter, went on WebMD, and had themselves dead in 17 minutes, right? We've all done it. We've all done it. You will die of anything if you go on WebMD, right? Because we're a litigious society. So WebMD has to say, oh, By the way, if you're bleeding from the eyeballs, please go to the doctor. Infected splinters cause bleeding eyeballs. No, they don't. But they're covering their asses, right? They're covering their asses. What's the probability that you're going to die of a splinter? It's not really very good, right? So don't read your way into it being good. And then keep a diary about what foods you're eating to get the splinter back out of your finger. So what you focus on will expand. Stop thinking so much about your body. Just stop. Get out there and climb a hill. Go out there and touch a flower. Go out there and listen to a bird. Get yourself up and out and live the life that you're meant to live. Stop thinking so much about your body. The little messengers that come your way, they're very, 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 very helpful. It's not about eliminating all injury and all accidents and all body disharmony, but it is about saying, this is no longer the way that I want to experience my lifetime. Okay? Good? Hope I answered that question. And honestly, I make it sound so trivial. I worked it. I worked it as though my life depended on it. I dedicated myself to changing my mindset. I dedicated myself to changing the way that I felt about my relationship with my body. I became obsessed with opting out of body disharmony. I became obsessed with it. I learned the tools. I did the work. I turned over disempowering thoughts. I got up and I moved my body. I turned on great music. I did everything that I could to get myself out of my head and opt into good health. All right? So it is possible. If I didn't think it was possible, I would never put that suggestion out there. Okay, we're almost out of time. This one is, let me go to one other. How do you know what your guides are saying? Oh, another. I'm trying to pick one that's a little shorter because we're running out of time, but they're all really fantastic questions and they're really long. Okay, how do you know what your guides are saying? First, you have to believe it's possible. You also have to believe that they actually are guiding you. And then there's so many ways between looking for signs. I always say patterns of 3. One time, you can ignore it. Second time, please don't ignore it. Third time, we're kind of beating you over the head with it. If you see a sign the third time, there's messages out there all the time. There's signs. There's good ideas that pop in your head are messages. Don't dismiss them. If an idea pops in your head and it feels like a good idea, then assume that your guides have co-created it with you. Not that you're good enough to have good ideas. However, the best of our ideas, the ones that make us feel good and empowered and optimistic and free and filled with love or joy, even if those moments just last very, very briefly, those are co-created. And your higher self might be one of them that's co-creating it with you. It doesn't mean that you're limited. It means that we are not alone. And since we're taught to be negative and we're taught to contract, it's important that we have a guide that's not encumbered by the human experience that can keep reminding us of how limitless we really are, and so definitely pay attention to good ideas that pop in your head. Find messages and visits in dreams. Find someone saying something that you just had an experience with. If it feels like they're talking to you, they are talking to you. Anything that you thought I was talking to you tonight, I was talking to you tonight, because that's how this works. Okay, we know about auto writing, but I don't hear anybody on earth talking about auto speaking. You can become a channel for the benefit of someone else. Did you ever say something and then you look back at yourself and say, wow, that was pretty good, right? I can't believe that just came out of my mouth. And you don't want to, interrupt the flow of the conversation by congratulating yourself. But meanwhile, you're like, well done. You got it going on today. But that's auto speaking. You got yourself out of the way, and the guys are like, she's out of the way, she's out of the way. Get those words out of her mouth right now. So there's lots of ways. So it might be something that somebody says to you that resonates. Guides use all of us all the time, only for good, but we are always used. And I say, use me. So let other people be used for your benefit as well. And you'll see the messages come in so many different packages. One that I don't talk about that often is the which one does not belong. When something is out of place, pay attention to it and then interpret why it's there or why it's out of place. Because it's one of the easier ways for guides to get us messages, which one does not belong, which one is not like the others.
Something meaning like a physical item or something meaning, like, what do you mean like something out of place?
Like an albino deer in a herd. You know, what one is not like the others. And you just think about it, like, well, how did I get to see an albino deer? That feels really pretty miraculous. What are the guides telling me? It's telling me I'm an original. I'm unique. I stand out in a crowd, and I might as well just step into that truth. You follow? So they do have a way of capturing our attention. You know? There was a chickadee on the bird feeder in my window today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was a sign. What was it a sign for? Who wants to interpret that?
It could be someone who passed. Could be someone who came back to say hello.
Yeah.
What does that remind you of?
Yeah.
Was a chickadee? Really was a chickadee.
Yeah.
So you could see what the characteristics of a chickadee is.
Yep, absolutely. You could look it up as as the soul totem animal speaks or whatever.
And that's my totem animal is the hawk.
Yeah.
And I went to California. I see hawks all the time. They fly over me. They fly in front of me. Everywhere I go. I went to the beach with a friend of mine recently. We were going to someplace. A hawk flew over us. Then when we were leaving and we were exiting the parkway, another hawk flew over us.
Exactly.
And that is very, very intense. And I just saw, I forget your name, but I see as a sign, she was at the town of Hempstead trying to get them to change their vending machines.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Healthy
Oh,
machines.
interesting.
And I have a lot of friends that
Interesting.
sit on the board that, you know, like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
A coincidence is a purposeful
coincidences.
intersecting. Exactly.
There are no
Yeah.
coincidences.
Well, it means to coincide. Just because something coincides doesn't mean it's random. So coincidence is a purposeful intersection of events or people or ideas.
Or way of God remaining anonymous.
I don't see the anonymity in it, but I get the point. But that's definitely another way, and the ways just expand. It could be something you feel. It could be you feel like a brush on your cheek, or you feel a cool breeze when there is none. You know, it's also in your sensory perceptions that something that's not actually happening physically, that you can sense that it is happening. One of the most uncommon ways is through scent. I wish that was one that worked for me a little bit more, but like you could be in a room. I was doing a session with a client and all I could smell was roses, and I asked her what kind of perfume she had, and she didn't have anything on. She said, I have fragrance-free everything. I was like, all right, well, no big deal. I moved on, and it turned out that her grandma, Rose, wore rose water from the moment she was born and grew roses. So that happened to be just one time I actually got to smell the roses while doing a session. But normally I don't get my signs or my communications from guides through scent. I wish I did more. I like that. It feels good. Huh? We all can. It's just a matter of.
Can you?
I can.
Yeah,
absolutely. The whole idea is to find the way that reliably, even if it's an experiment for you, it's to find the way reliably that you quiet your left brain. You know, people refer to it as quieting the mind. I refer to it as quieting the mind also. But what you're actually doing is you're subduing the left brain. The left brain is our navigation system for being human. So it actually helps us navigate space and time, which do not actually exist. So we need the navigation system. We actually need the left brain. However, the left brain is also the depository of fact, and fact is fiction. So all the deposits in there oftentimes can be negative, and it also stores negative emotion. So it's, even though it has its upsides and logic, rational thinking, solutions, and things like that, left brain has some good things it offers us. It mostly brings us down. So every now and then tell it to go to sleep and let the right brain soar. When the right brain soars, that's when you experience your eternal nature, unlimitedness, optimism, freedom, joy, love, expansiveness, possibility, freedom, all of the things that we're meant to experience here on earth. We connect with them through the right brain, not through the left brain. So, and the conduit is the vibration of love, and that's the way our guides enter, is through the vibration of love. So when you quiet your left brain, when you quiet your mind, you're allowing the connection for you to hear, see, feel, know your guides more regularly. Treat quieting your mind like you would treat drinking water. That's how important it is. It's that important. You know, little by little, I could see we're teaching children that it's that important. So that alone will probably completely change the future. At young kids today who are learning to quiet their minds and to trust their own inner being. Imagine what this world is going to be like when they become adults. It could be pretty exciting. It could be pretty exciting. Okay, I think I probably went over time. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with me tonight. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming here in person. I really appreciate that. I was very happy to hug each and every one of you. So thanks. It's fun to see all your happy, shining faces. Have a good month, and I will see you in July. Thank you. On July like 10? Oh. Okay. Thank you.